Hello guys, welcome back. Today we want to start building a real website with Winter CMS. Well, Winter is flexible and there are many ways to approach this. Advanced in our days. And as a great coincidence, Tailwind CSS have released their latest brand new version 3.0 just today. Yes! This is a great chance to include it from the very beginning. And for our project we need to allow non-technical people to manage the content. This means the user interface needs to be as simple as possible. For this I'm already using the Winter Snowflake-plugin. The Snowflake plugin will also be released the next days, but for just right now it's still a beta version. I wanted a real-world scenario for our project, so let's pretend our customer is a fictitious tourism organization called Franconia Culture Club. Well, the region Franconia actually exists and lies in the northern part of Bavaria, Germany. You need to know the Franconians are very proud of their own tradition and culture and hate to be called Bavarians. Be careful when you meet one. So yes, it is a realistic project and of course we're happy to help creating their new website. A quick look at my machine. You can see to the left I have my code editor, I have a terminal window and you can see my browser window at the right bottom. First thing we want to do is we want to start our local web server, and for this I simply use the built-in web server that comes with Winter, and the command is php artisan serve. Very simple. Now it's serving. Have a look if we can log in to the backend. Yes, we can. You can see I've been logged in before, so it doesn't ask me for my credential, but that's fine. Next thing is we want to install Tailwind CSS. For this you need Node.js. On my machine I'm running version 14.17. If you haven't installed Node yet, you really should. And there's plenty tutorials on installing Node, and I'll put a link in the description of this video too. So to install it, we use npm node package manager install Tailwind CSS. That should do it. And it doesn't take long on my machine because it's been installed before, but when you do it, it'll probably take some seconds, but not very long. Excellent. Next thing is, let me have a look at the project path here. Look at the bottom left, last file is server.php. Now we want a Tailwind configuration file, and to do it it's just npx tailwind css init. Now the Tailwind config.js is popping up. We'll have a look at the config file later. First we want to create our new Winter CMS Franconia theme. To do so we could use the backend, we could go to settings, front-end theme and so on, but we don't want to do this. We want to use the console commands as much as possible here. So we do php artisan create theme, and we want to call our theme, of course, Franconia. That should do it. have a look in our themes folder. Now we have the demo that comes with Winter, and we have Franconia. Now we don't want to keep the demo, so let's do PHP artisan Winter fresh. Demo theme has removed. Great, Winter does this for us as well. Have a look at our Franconia theme. Here you can see pages. It already ships with home, error, 4 and 404. So this is the current content of our home HTML. And this is exactly the same what we get in the backend here. Right? But let's do the CSS setup first. Within our assets folder, well, there comes a subfolder called less. We don't want to use this technique anymore. Remove it. Delete it, move it to the trash. And now I want to add 2 subfolders to the asset folder right now. The first one is, themes, Franconia, assets, is src for source. And the second one is CSS, where our final style sheet sits. And now I want to create a file. Let's use the touch themes, Franconia, assets, source, and I want to create our source style sheet, and I call it style CSS. That's the way I always do. I always use style.css, because if I use different names, I always get confused between different projects. What is this, the name of the style sheet? I always use style.css. Now we have a blank, empty style CSS in our source folder. Great. Next step, now we look at the Tailwind config. And that's all in there. That's not a lot. And the important part within Tailwind 3.0 is this one, content. And this tells Tailwind what files and or what folders to look in to watch any changes in those files. And for us, we want Tailwind to have a close look to all of our HTML files, which are these here. Now, to do so, we tell Tailwind, look in themes, look in Franconia, look in any subfolder Franconia, and focus on HTML files. That's it. Now, Tailwind with a just-in-time compiler needs an input style sheet. And this is this one. But as you can see, it's empty right now. So what to put in here? We have a look on the Tailwind website. Get started. And we look for this. This is the simple content of our input style sheet. That's it. And there is one last step missing. We need to start a just-in-time compiler to watch our changes. npx, that's another node command. Tailwind CSS again, And now we need to specify the input style sheet. And as we know, it sits in themes, Franconia, assets, source, and the file name is style.css. We need to specify the output file name, and it again sits in themes, Franconia, assets, CSS, style CSS. Great. And we need to add another parameter, --watch, or shorthand is -w, sorry. And we hope it works. Rebuilding. So it's doing something. Have a look at our CSS folder. It was empty. Now we have a style CSS. Close this one. And there's already around 430 lines in it. And what's in there, it's basically what Tailwind always does. It's the Tailwind style resets, CSS resets, to ensure different browsers don't mess up our layout. Great. To see if we specified everything correctly, let's do a change to our home HTML, save it, and yes, it's triggering a rebuild. So Tailwind CSS just-in-time compiler is up and running. Great. Okay, we now know Tailwind is taking care of our style CSS, but it's still not loaded in our front-end pages. We want to change this. To do so, we go to Layouts. Within Winter CMS, layouts keep the repeating parts of the HTML output, which is the header and the footer and any top navigation or whatever you want to have repeating all over the pages. Now, this has been generated for us. It's calling a partial called site header and a partial called site footer. And if you ask me, this is an overcomplicated way of doing things. So when we look into the partials, we can have a look at the header partial. This is the header partial, and it's over-engineered. You really don't need all of this, and you shouldn't be confused with it. So we want to get rid of this one and this one. So it's just outputting the page right now, but of course we need an HTML frame. So let's generate it, and our page content should go within the body tag, of course. And now we need to link to our style sheet. And the best way to do it in Winter CMS, we use a twig tag. In there we specify the relative path within our Franconia theme. So it's assets. This is the path of our Franconia theme. And now it comes assets, CSS, style CSS, and then we add a twig filter, and the filter for this is theme. Theme. Yes, now I got it. And what this is doing is Winter is actually generating the full path for you, and it's actually working dynamically, so whenever you use it on production and whatever, it will always generate the right path. Very handy. Now title document, we leave it for a while, and let's see if we get some output here. Switch back. Now we don't need the Tailwind website anymore. Sorry. Now the simple look of this H1 output, I can tell you it's not generated by Tailwind, and probably because of this. Save it and reload it, still not working. Okay, I bet you've spotted the problem before I did, and it's because this style, it's not CSS, it's style.cs, and the reason is this one. In the Tailwind just-in-time compiler, I made a mistake with the output file, correct it, and hopefully this time it does work. Yes, now it looks like Tailwind. Great. Now I don't really want to call my layout default. I want to rename it to Franconia. Sorry, rename it. Stop. Rename. Franconia. And we must refer to the Franconia layout in our page. And this is the place we do it. I call this Franconia. Now you probably, if you're new to Winter, you probably ask yourself, what's this weird part on top of the HTML? Well, this is the Winter CMS way of actually storing the main meta information of this page. And to understand what it is, we have a look at our CMS pages and open the home page. Now it tells us the title is home. Let's make it home test. Save it, and now this changes. So I change it back to home, close it, reopen it here, and it's back to home. So whatever you change here actually is changed in this area. Now, for example, mess up our layout here and try what we get. We get an error because this layout is unknown. Change it back to Franconia and it works again. Now, in the beginning of the video I said I want to use Snowflake for the content. And we want to start with our H1 tag here. We want this content to be controlled by Snowflake. And to do so, we want to insert a Snowflake tag. Again, a twig tag. And Snowflake key, which is the variable name, I call it main headline. Now we need to add the Snowflake filter, SF. The first parameter is the type, and I use the type of text because it's just a simple text without any special formatting. The second one is the default value. What do I want that Snowflake inserts as the content here? And my customer, our Franconia Culture Club, have told me it should say Franconia the better Bavaria. And I can add a third parameter, which is a description. It's basically a hint for our site editors later on. This is our main headline. Right, save it. And now I go back to my terminal and I need to sync the Snowflake plugin. And again, there's a console command, php artisan snowflake sync. Have a look at the backend. Does it work? Yes, we do have the main headline. Description, Franconia the better Bavaria. Now, it won't show up on the front end because we haven't added the Snowflake component to our layout. The layout is here, Franconia, and to add a component you have two options. Could use the square brackets, and if you know the component's name, in my case I do, it's sf_page. This is one way of doing it. Does it show up? Franconia the better Bavaria. We get it. For test we leave it here. Now it shows up nothing. Go back to our CMS, layouts, Franconia, and now I'll show you the second way of doing it. In the back end, go to components, and then you see render snowflake content component. I don't need it twice, I just need it once, and it does the same for you. Great. And one last thing in our layout, which I think needs to be changed. For the title, this is what shows up in the browser tab. It still says document. This is not very elegant, and our customer wants us to say something different. And the way of doing it is another twig tag, and this time this dot page dot title. So, and the title is, our customer wants us to have the better Bavaria, or make it Franconia the better Bavaria. Okay. Franconia the better Bavaria. Now it pulls dynamically the title of the page that is displayed. Great. Now we're not quite happy with the styling, are we? I want to do one first change. Now let's get Tailwind do its job. To the body I want to add a class of, yes, it already comes up with BG, with its background, and I want to have a very light gray background, almost not noticeable, and we make it BG gray 50. I saved it, and now there is a little change. So you can see, gets rid of this one, delete, this is move to trash, this is the correct one. We go to the bottom, and now it's added something to our style. And the clever thing is, it just adds what we really use. So we started to use BG Gray 50, and it added to our style sheet, and it will be always a very small file, as depending on how complex your project be, but it will never ever grow to something really dangerous with slow loading times. It's really great. Now, that's definitely not everything we want to change. We want to change the, well, first of all, that's fine. Leave it there. Class. Right, what do we actually want? We want text center. I want to have it in the middle of my page. Now I want to have a definitely bigger size. So let's use text 4XL, which is pretty big. See what we get. It looks better. Now give it a margin at the top, 10. Save it and make it a little bit bolder. Font semi-bold here. Great. Now, what's all about this just-in-time compiler? Well, there's some bits to it that are really amazing. Let's say I'm not quite happy with this margin top 8 or whatever we use. I want to specify a text size in pixel. Well, a stupid thing to do, but we can try it. Square brackets and say 85 pixel. Ooh, this will be huge. It is huge. Now 3 rem, 3 em. Make it 5. Let me see the difference. Isn't this great? So you have full control over everything. And I want to show you one last trick before we are finished. Let's make it 5% of our viewport width. I'll save it. Sorry. Now, that looks quite okay. But what if I have a bigger screen? It grows. And for mobile screens, it shrinks. And this is a sensational way of doing responsive layouts these days. Great. Now we are up and running. We can start coding and see you next time. Bye bye.